you on my team.
Hi everyone, you're welcome back again to my channel. My name is Ajibola. To the new subscribers in the house, you're very much welcome. To the returning ones, you're welcome. I love you all. Today I'm going to be teaching you on how to draft the pattern and sew these two sets cute pajamas made with silk and Ankara. So if this is what you would love to learn, kindly subscribe, sit and relax. Like this video, do not forget to share, and let's dive into the tutorial. So these are the measurements you'll be needing for the shirt of your pajamas, and for a start we'll be drafting out the back pattern of our shirt of the pajamas. And right now I'm just marking from the top of the paper to my bust point, and I'm just going to rule that out. And from that my bust point, I'm going to come down by 6 inches. That is from my bust point to my waist measurement. Remember that measurement differs. Yours may be different from mine depending on the type of body you have. And right now from that waistline, I'm going to come down to my hips line, which is 8 inches, and that is where I want my top to be. You can do yours longer than that depending on your taste. So right now I'm just going to rule out a vertical line like this. So this is just basically the way you draft out your basic bodice pattern. So from the top there, I'm going to be putting in my shoulder measurement divided by 2, and I'll be putting same measurement on the bust line this way. And I'll be connecting both points together with my straight ruler like this. So right there, I'm going to go in from the center back and mark 3 inches. That's my neck width. And from that line there, I'm going to be marking 1 inch downwards, and I'll be connecting that point to my neck width to create our shoulder slant. And on the top there, I'll be coming down by ½ inch as my neck depth for the back. And I will be connecting both points together with a curve to create our back neckline like this. When that is done, I'm going to be marking our chest line, and the chest line is gotten by dividing your bust by 6 plus 1.5 inch. So I'll be drawing out my chest line this way. When that is done, I'll be putting in my bust circumference measurement divided by 4 on the chest line, and I'll go ahead to look for the midpoint of that shoulder slant to that chest line there and mark the midpoint. Then afterwards, I will be using my curve to connect those 2 points together, and we've created our armhole. So the next thing I'm going to do is to put my hip measurement divided by 4, and I'll be replicating same measurement on my waist. This is because I want my shirt to be loose, to be boxy. I do not want any form of restriction, but if you want your shapey, just put your waist measurement and shape it out. And we are almost done with the back pattern of the pajamas. Can you see how easy it is to create? But at the bottom of the shirt, that is at the M line, I do not want it to have this kind of angle. I want it to be a little bit shapy on the side. So I'll be going upwards on that line by 1 inch, and I'll be connecting it towards the M line using my curve ruler. And we are done with the back pattern of the pajamas shirt. Now it is time to draft the front pattern. So I have demarcated it with a line, as you can see here, and I'm just going to extend all lines out this way: the chest line, the bust line, the waist line, the hips line as well, so that I can be able to draft out my front pattern of my pajamas shirt easily. So after ruling out the vertical lines for the front shirt pattern, we're going to go inwards from the edge by 5 inch like this, 5 inches, and I'm going to connect that with our ruler this way. And so from the 5 inches line, I'll be going in to mark my shoulder measurement divided by 2, like this, and I'll be replicating same measurement on my chest line like this. Using my ruler, I'll be connecting both points together with a straight line like this. From the 5 inches line again, I'm going to be going inward by 3 inches, that's our neck width, and coming down by 3 inches as our neck depth. And I would use my curve to connect both points together to create the neckline like this. And so on that line, I'll be coming down by 1 inch, and I'll be connecting it to my neck width as a slant line to create the shoulder slant. And so I'm going to extend that neckline like this towards the edge of the paper, and I'm going to use my tape measure to mark 1 inch outside that 5 inches line all through to the bottom of the shirt. This 1 inch will represent our button placket, that is where your buttons are going to sit on your shirt. And I'm going to use my straight ruler to join all points together like this using a straight line. When that is done, I'm now going to use my ruler to connect that point to the chest line point there. This represents where the flap is going to end on my chest line. You can go up by 1 inch or 2 inch if you want your flap to end above your chest line. Right now with my free hand, I'm just going to curve that edge out and erase the pointy edge away. But if you want yours to be pointy, there is no need to curve it like I just did. Now I'm just going to put my bust circumference measurement there, and right now I just want to draft the armhole of my front pattern. I'm finding the midpoint from my shoulder to my chest line, and I'm going to go in by ½ inch like this. Using my ruler, I'm going to connect it from the shoulder slant to that point using a straight line, and using my curve, I'm going to connect the 2 points at the bust measurement there towards that midpoint. I'm just going to put my hip circumference measurement there on the hip. And guys, make sure that your measurement is taken from that second line. And I'm going to connect it straight to the chest line. Just straight. There is no need for waist measurement or shaping. But if you want to shape, you can shape it by putting your waist measurement on the waistline. Right now, I'm going to go upward at that hem area by 1 inch, and I'm going to use my curve to connect it to the hem line like this so that my top can have a little bit of shape at the hem area. And we are done with the front pattern pajama shirt, and I'm going to cut it out using my scissors this way. I'm just curving that edge out. And remember guys, we did not put any sewing allowance, so when I'm transferring it to the fabric, I'm going to put my sewing allowance all through. And so it's time to draft the trouser of the pajamas. And right now I just wrote my starting line of ½ inch. And from the edge of the paper there, I'm going to come in by 1 inch, and I'm going to roll it downwards. So I'm going to mark the length of my trouser, leaving 2 inches for the band away and adding extra 2 inches to the length of my trousers for the hemming allowance. Using my ruler, I'm going to roll a vertical line to indicate the hem of my trouser like this. And I'll be coming upwards by that 2 inches extra that we added to the trouser length, and I'll also be ruling it with a line like this.
So after doing that, the next thing I'm doing now is to mark my waist to hip measurement. I'll be removing 2 inches away from my tape measure like this and mark my measurements there like this. And I'll be ruling a vertical line to connect the points together like this.
After marking the hip line, it's time to mark the crouch line, and the crouch line can be gotten from dividing your hip circumference by 4 plus 1 inches for ease. So same method, I'm going to remove 2 inches away from my tape measure to mark my crouch depth line this way. After doing that, the next thing is to mark the knee line. And if you are not opportune to measure that on your client's body, maybe you forgot, this is another method. You just put your tape measure on that crouch line and put it towards the end of the M line, not the allowance. Then you fold your tape measure into two like this, and you mark that point. That point now represents your nail line. So you're going to measure the distance between the crotch line and that point, and we mark it out. And so I'm just going to go ahead with my ruler to rule out that nail line like that. And from there, I'm going to put in my hip circumference measurements divided by 4 plus half inch for ease. I'm going to put the measurement on the crouch line, the hip line, and connect it straight to my waist line. I am not going to be shaping the waist because it's going to have an elastic all through. Now on the crouch line, I'm going to divide my hip circumference measurement by 20, and whatever I get, I'm going to mark it there. And from that angle there, I'm going to extend it out this way, and I am going to mark 1 inch like this. Using the curve of my ruler, I'm going to connect both 3 points together like this. And we've created our front trouser crouch. So from that edge there, I'm just going to measure from the center front towards the crouch, and I'm going to fold my tape in two to mark the midpoint. So whatever I have there, I'm going to mark it and replicate it on all lines, the knee lines and the M line. I'm going to mark that half measurement on the knee line as well, like this. I'm also going to put that half measurement on my M line, and I'm going to connect all points together with my straight ruler like this. So when that is done, I'm going to put my knee circumference measurement divided by 2 on the knee line, but I am going to divide that result into two equal parts. That is, if your knee circumference is 18 and you divide by 2, you are going to have 9, and then that 9 will be divided into equal parts to make it 4.5 on both sides. So when that is done, you will also have to divide your ankle circumference that same way on your M line like this, and on the other end as well.
So from that crotch extension, I'm going to just draw a straight line of 2 inches. And from that 2 inches, I'm going to go inward by half inch. And the reason being that I want to draw my curve, just a curve, a small curve to extend it to my M line this way. So I'm just going to draw a straight line towards the knee that way, and I'm going to clean off that line so that we will not be confused. When that is done, I'm going to go to the center fold and mark 2 inches downward from the crotch depth line, and use my ruler to rule a straight line from the knee halfway. Then using the curve part of my ruler, I'm just going to draw my curve to connect it to that straight line like this. And I'm going to blend it in like this so it will look natural. So then I'm going to extend from the knee line to the hem line using my straight ruler like this and like this. So right now I'm just going to add half inch to all sides of the front pattern. This half inch represents our sewing allowance for the front pattern all through. So from the crotch depth line, I'm going to come down by half inch like this, and I'm going to connect it slanted with my ruler to my waist line. And I'm so sorry the camera cut this part off, but you're going to see it later. So I'm going to put my half inch allowance all through like this, which I've done. And I'm going to put half inch on the waistline as well for my sewing allowance. So in order to cut it out, I'm going to fold in that M allowance of 2 inches. I'm going to fold it inwards exactly on that line of 2 inches extra. And I'm going to cut it out this way on that half inch allowance like this. When that is done, I'm going to go ahead to fix in my half inch allowance at the waist line before I cut it out. So as you can see, the slant I was talking about. So I'm just going to put half inch all through. And so I'm going to just label it as my front trouser like this. And I'm going to be using it in cutting out the back of our trouser. So for the back pattern of the trouser, I have marked 2 inches from the top downwards, and that is our butt height. The back pattern is always bigger than the front because of the availability of our butt, and it's gotten from dividing our thigh circumference by 2 and the hip circumference by 4, and you will then have to subtract both divisions to get the butt height. I'm going to go ahead to place the front pattern on that line, aligning the waist to the line of 2 inches. And right now, from that center line of the front towards the edge of the other side, I'm going to find the midpoint and line it up like this. So after doing that, I'm going to go ahead to measure what I have on my waist, the front waistline, and I'm going to put that exact measurement on that line we drew, and I'm going to mark it there. When that is done, I'm going to use my ruler, my straight ruler, to connect it to that butt height like this. So I'm going to use my ruler to extend the lines, the crouch line outward this way, and the hip line, also the knee line and the hem line, which we'll be doing later. And guys, make sure you keep some everything on your paper so that it does not move about. So I'm going to now draw out the crotch of our back by dividing the hip circumference by 10. Whatever you have, you're going to place your tape measure on that 0.5 inches of allowance for the front. So that is where you'll be taking your measurement. That is to say
indirectly you have added a sewing allowance to the back pattern. So from that back crotch measurement, we're going to go down by half inch there. We're going to come down by half inch and I'm going to mark it like this. So what I'm going to do next is to mark the exact point of my front crotch like this. I will mark it on that crotch line and I'm going to use my ruler, the straight side of my ruler, to connect it to that butt height of the back waist line this way. And after doing that, I'll be using the curve part of my ruler to connect it to that half inch that we marked at the crotch side for the back to create the back crotch curve this way. When that is done, I'm going to place my tape measure on the half inch sewing allowance of the front pattern there and mark 1 inch all through to the bottom hem of the pants of the trouser. So I'm now going to use the slightest curve of my ruler like this and connect it from the back crouch measurement there towards the 1 inch like this. Using the straight part of my ruler, I'm going to now connect it from the knee line there towards the hem of my trouser. So I'm just going to blend where the straight line and the curve meet this way using the curve part of my ruler so that it can look natural. So I'm just going to extend the hem line for the back this way and also go ahead to extend the crotch line at the front this way and also extend the hip line for the back this way. So when that is done, I'm just going to add my allowance for the back pattern from the front pattern allowance there. I'm just adding 1 inch all through from the knee allowance towards the hem allowance. And remember guys, I am starting from the outer seam allowance for my front pattern. That is where I'm taking my measurement from outwards. So right now I'm just going to connect to the straight line. Remember, this is where the waist of our back ends, so I'm just going to draw a straight line from there to the hip line like this. Then I'll be connecting the rest using the slightest part of my curve there at the hip line because your hip is not straight. So I'm just going to use the slightest part of my curve to connect it towards the knee line like this. So I'm now going to use the straight part of my ruler to connect from the knee line to the hem line along that seam allowance for the back like this. So I'm going to use the straight part of my ruler to connect these 2 points together, the hip line and towards the knee line like this. If you have a hip ruler that or hip curve, then this aspect is going to be easy for you to do, and if you don't, just go through this process and you'll be just fine. So right now I'm just going to make the lines more visible by highlighting it more. As you can see, I'm ruling out my knee line, my hip line and my crotch line, and right now I'm just going to highlight the crotch curve for the back this way to make it more visible for you to see. And I'm going to label it as my back pattern this way.
So this is it. This is how the back pattern looks like. Now I'm going to go ahead to cut it out. So this is how the back pattern of the trouser looks like. Right now I'm just going to cut and keep that 2 inches additional line there, because we'll be adding it as an Ankara piece to the trouser design, and I'll be doing that for the front as well, which I've already done. So this is how the front and the back pattern of our trouser for the pajamas looks like. And mind you, I haven't cut out the band for the trouser. This is just how it's going to look like, and I'm going to cut it directly on my fabric without adding any further seam allowance, because we've already added our allowances to the trouser. So what I'm just going to do is to place it on my fabric and cut it out exactly this way. So for the sleeve of our pajama shirt, I'm going to be folding my paper into two like this, and I'll be marking out the cap height of our sleeves. To get the cap height of your sleeve, you have to divide your bust circumference by 12 plus 1 inch to it. So whatever you get, you're going to rule it out on a straight line like this, and from that point towards the top of the paper this way, I'm going to rule a diagonal line like this. As you can see, I have ruled out my diagonal line, and the distance from the top of my paper to that line represents my cap sleeve, or the cap of my sleeve, I mean. Now, after doing that, drawing the diagonal line, I'm going to look for the midpoint of that line by dividing my tape measure into two this way, by placing it and dividing my tape measure into two, and mark that point. So that represents the mid of my diagonal line. After doing that, I'm going to look for the mid of both two sides together. So I'm going to be starting from the top of the paper to where my midpoint is, and marking out the mid of that point there. And I'll be doing the same on the second half of the diagonal line this way, by placing my tape measure this way and folding it into two like this to mark out the midpoint like this. So now we have three equal parts on our diagonal lines. So at the top there, at the first point, I'm going to be going upward by ½ inch this way. I mean ½ inch this way upwards. And on the other third point there, I'll be going in by ½ inch downward this way, like this. So at the midpoint, we are left with the midpoint. I'll be going upwards by ½ inch for the midpoint like this. So the first point you go up by ½ inch, the midpoint you go up by ½ inch, and the last point you come down by ½ inch. So right now it is time to draw out the curve of our sleeves, and remember we're going to be drawing out two curves, one for the front and one for the back of our sleeves. So we'll be starting from the front curve like this. So from that point, I'll be connecting to that ½ inch upward point, let's say point A, towards the mid of our diagonal line. Then I'll be connecting it with my straight ruler towards the point like this. So I will just be blending out the mid curve there to make it curvy this way. So I'm just going to use the very slightest part of my curve ruler to make that curve curvy, and this curve represents the front curve of our armhole, that is the front armhole curve. So right now it's time to draw the back curve. So from that point as well, I'll be connecting with the slightest part of my curve ruler towards the first point like this, and from that first point I'll be drawing my curve to pass through the midpoint on that diagonal line like this, as you can see me do here. Then I'll also be connecting it with my inverted curve ruler towards the third point. So you can see where the curve is passing through towards that midpoint there on the diagonal line, and I'll be using my inverted curve ruler there to connect it to the third point on our diagonal line. So you can see I'm using the inward part of my curve ruler to connect it like this. And so I'll be connecting that curve towards the end of the diagonal line, towards the diagonal line. So this part, this new curve is the front curve. I beg your pardon, the first one was for the back curve, the armhole curve. As you can see, I labeled it as B, and the second curve is for the front, which I have labeled as F. So right now, I'm just going to measure the length of our sleeves from the top of our paper this way. So I'm going to connect that with a straight line, and from that line there I'm going to come downward by 2 inches. This will represent the width of the Ankara we're going to be using for the sleeve design at the hem of the sleeve, and I'm just going to roll it out this way with my straight ruler. So from there, from the fold there, I'm going to measure my round arm measurement divided by 2. But before that, I'm going to be cutting out the excess of our paper this way. Now from the center fold there, I'm going to be marking my round arm measurement divided by 2 on the line, and I'll be putting it there, whatever I have, and I'll be using my straight ruler to connect it this way to where the armhole curve is, like this. And I'll be cutting out the back curve line first before cutting out the front curve line this way. So carefully make sure that you cut out the back armhole curve of your sleeve out this way while your paper is folded. Then I'm going to mark it like this to indicate that that's the back curve armhole. Then I will be opening up my paper this way, and I'll be cutting out the front armhole curve like this. So this way we have created the two armhole curve, one for the front and one for the back. The one with the marker is for the back, and the one I just finished cutting is for the front. So I'm just going to label that as B, back, and F for the front. So after doing that, I'm just going to curve, like fold in that M line, the original M line, this way, in order to cut out the side seam of our sleeve easily. I'm doing this because when it's time to fold in the sleeve M,
it's going to be easy. There would not be any form of shortage at the end. Everything is going to go equally. So finally, guys, we've come to the end of this pattern drafting video. The next part of this video will be about the sewing, the shirt and the trouser pajamas, and I can't wait to see you there. If you've enjoyed this video so far, do not forget to give it a like, and do